What's happening, y'all? Welcome inside the Fantasy Stock Exchange, coming at you today to talk about some injury news. Now, if you guys aren't aware, Travis Etienne, it looks like he's going to be down for the rest of the season. He's undergoing foot surgery to repair a Liz Frank injury, so he's going to be getting a bunch of screws put in his foot, basically. Effectively going to end his season, his rookie year this year. Obviously, there's two major fantasy implications. What do we do with Etienne from Dynasty perspective? And James Robinson's now a redraft darling. He's going to be back to the same James Robinson that he was last year, presumably. So let's start with James Robinson since it is redraft season. People are probably more concerned about that. Where I currently have James Robinson ranked right now in my rankings, I have a tier 5 of running backs. DeAndre Swift is my RB13. Joe Mixon is my RB14. David Montgomery is my RB15. And now right behind David Montgomery, I have James Robinson right ahead of J.K. Dobbins. So that is basically where I'm viewing James Robinson. David Montgomery is a guy that I currently have ranked around that 30 range of your draft. So James Robinson's now a guy that I would probably be comfortable spending an early to mid third round pick on. If anybody is going to go overboard and take this guy the mid-second round, I think that's a little bit too rich for my blood. This is still a team with an offensive line that is not the greatest in the NFL. It's not one that inspires a lot of confidence in me. This coaching staff that we've seen so far has been deploying a committee approach. So I'm not 100% convinced that they're going to abandon what their approach was going to be had Travis Etienne stayed healthy and just give James Robinson a 90% opportunity share like we saw from Doug Marrone's coaching staff last year. So we do have to remember that this is a regime change. Just because James Robinson's now alone in this backfield with Carlos Hyde, we can't assume that James Robinson's going to get the same touch share that he was going to get last year. Now, the offense, of course, should be better than it was last year. Now with Trevor Lawrence in the fold, with Marvin Jones and DJ Chark and Laviska Shenault on the outside. So I do think there is definitely some upside for James Robinson to definitely have more touchdowns than he had last year. But again, I'm not going to go overboard and pretend that this guy is a lock for the production that he saw last year just because the offense is better, because I do think there is some concerns from a situational perspective. How good is the offensive line? We have a rookie quarterback in the fold. He should probably cede some work to Carlos Hyde at some point. So overall, those are my thoughts on James Robinson. This is a guy, like I said, I'm comfortable drafting in the early to mid third round, depending on which wide receivers on the board. If I have to choose between James Robinson and CeeDee Lamb, I'm probably going to take CeeDee Lamb. But if I have to choose between James Robinson and Cooper Kupp, I might go James Robinson there. So that's kind of my thoughts on James Robinson from a redraft perspective. From a dynasty perspective, looking at Travis Etienne specifically, this is really bad news from a dynasty perspective because I mean, we talk about rookie face planners at the wide receiver position all the time. While Etienne isn't face planning because he's not going to play his rookie year, it is definitely discouraging to see a player miss their whole rookie season. It's very tough for a player to come back and be a great, elite fantasy asset after that, because missing your rookie season is a crucial part of your development. And by your third season, you're already a year behind the 8 ball from that perspective. So if you have Travis Etienne, there's a couple courses of actions that you could take. One, you could sell him, which I probably wouldn't advise you do because his value is going to be very low right now, unless you're a contending team and you're really going for it this year and you just lost Etienne and you need another piece to contend. That'd be the only way I would sell Etienne, and I think that's probably an ill-advised move regardless. What I'm going to do, because I do own him in one league, is I'm going to shift my strategy because I was kind of teetering on the edge in this league between a contender and a rebuilder, which is not a good place to be in overall, but I am going to shift my strategy now towards more of a rebuilding strategy. I'm going to sell some of my aging veterans and try and recoup some value that way. So that's what I'm going to be doing. And I think if you're a Cam Akers owner, I think this is the perfect running back to go and try and dangle Cam Akers in front of to try and acquire, because Cam Akers just had some positive news yesterday running on like a treadmill or whatever after his torn Achilles. So if you can say, hey, I will give you Cam Akers for Travis Etienne, I think it's much more likely that we see Travis Etienne achieve a full workload and be a bell cow running back at some point in his career as compared to a guy like Cam Akers. So if that's what you're wondering about Travis Etienne, you're really in a tough position, right? Because this is a guy that's going to miss his whole rookie season. Your best course of action is probably just to hold the guy and hope for next year. But if you can get some great value for him, then I would suggest you do so. Someone giving you a first round pick or something, maybe you could go in that direction. Or if you can trade him straight up for Cam Akers, if you were the Cam Akers owner, I would rather have Travis Etienne long-term. Now, on James Robinson's dynasty side of things, it gets a little bit murkier when you're trying to figure out what this guy's value actually is, because he's clearly going to be a big feature part of the Jacksonville Jaguars offense this year, but he's still an undrafted free agent. He doesn't really have any long-term commitment by the team. Travis Etienne will be back next year. So does one of these guys get traded? Are they both on the roster this time next year? And then is it a committee at that point? we really don't know what we have in James Robinson right now. Yes, he is a young running back, but we also don't know if he's going to have long-term viability. What we do know is that he's pretty talented and he's going to be a feature starter this year, which with running backs, you really can't project more than 1 or 2 years at a time. We like to think we can, but it's really difficult to do. So I currently moved James Robinson up to my RB20, which is right behind Josh Jacobs. I think you could definitely make the argument to put him ahead of Josh Jacobs. I just think Josh Jacobs is a very talented player, and eventually it'll work itself out for him. So David Montgomery, Joe Mixon, Javonte Williams are the guys that I have immediately in front of James Robinson. And then immediately behind James Robinson in my dynasty rankings, I have Miles Sanders, Travis Etienne, Darrell Henderson, and Cam Akers. Again, James Robinson, probably a very high-end rental player for dynasty purposes. I'm not really sure what his role is going to be going forward, but nonetheless, a young, talented player with some opportunity is definitely going to serve some people in dynasty. If you have James Robinson and you're looking to sell him, maybe you're not competitive, but you do have James Robinson on your roster, what I'd probably be looking for is draft capital for him, because I really don't know what I'm going to be expecting out of James Robinson from a future standpoint. So I'd be looking to get a first round pick, maybe a first and a wide receiver or something like that. And I'd be willing to move James Robinson if I'm rebuilding and I have James Robinson on my roster. So that's kind of how to handle the whole situation, both sides of the spectrum for both of these Jaguars running backs. An unfortunate situation. It's the big, I mean, really since Cam Akers, it's the first big injury that's happened. Hopefully we don't see any more of these, because I know a lot of people are starting to actually have their drafts now. Hopefully Travis Etienne can recover quickly and get back on the field and achieve that elite RB1 ceiling that I saw for him coming out of Clemson. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, check out all of our other videos on our channel. We just dropped a video today going over the early round draft strategy for if you have the 101, 102, 103, or 104 this year. I highly encourage, if you have one of those picks in your fantasy drafts, to go check out that video. A lot of strategy being talked in that video. So peace out, guys, and enjoy your Tuesday.
Why you need the